Hey guys, it's Fanny Frenzy 91, and I'm bringing you a Batman Arkham City gameplay. Why? Because I'm talking about Green Arrow, and as far as I know, there's not a Green Arrow game out there, so I have Arkham City. So let's go with that. Now, this is my review for for Arrow, season one. Now, I haven't watched season two yet because I just got into this series on Netflix, but I'm just giving my basic review of it and just a quick, cons, pros. All right, let's get started. Basically, what Arrow is it's, if those of you who aren't familiar, it's based on Green Arrow comics, and Green Arrow is I always kind of, well, not always, but I kind of think he's a copy in a sense of Batman. Not his story, but the whole, he's a rich guy, very rich guy, billionaire with gadgets. He uses arrows instead of regular gadgets like Batman does. He uses, or well, wouldn't call Batman's gadgets regular, but he uses arrows, and they have stuff attached to them. That some of them have cement, some of them have like handcuffs, some of them will have special stuff attached. But in Arrow, they basically stick with the whole just it's an arrow with a bomb on it, or it's an arrow with like a tracker on it. They don't go into all the specific stuff that the comics do. Also, what I let me just say what I like. I like how Arrow is done. I like how villains are introduced. The villains are introduced very well in Arrow. Better than a lot of the other comic spin-off series. And the villains are introduced in season one. There were much more villains than I thought there were going to be, and I like how they changed them up a bit. Like Slade Wilson is seen as a protagonist. For those of you who don't know who Slade Wilson is, he's also called Deathstroke. He's seen as a protagonist in the first season, at least. I haven't watched the second season yet, but in the first season, he actually seen like he's not, because we know he's a villain, but he's seen as someone who's helping Arrow. And also, we have Deadshot, and Deadshot. I loved how they introduced him. Like you didn't even know who he was unless you were deep in the comic, because I don't tend to know all of these guys' names. And when they showed us the mechanic eye, I think it was like, oh yeah, that's Deadshot. And they have Merlin, which is the main, and he seems to be the main antagonist. And he's basically just like Arrow. He's an archer as well. He's very skilled, and he's an assassin in the comics. I'm not sure if he is an assassin, but I'm not sure if he's actually working for the league in this show yet. They haven't revealed that. Anyway, what I do like about Arrow, other than the villains being introduced, I like how Arrow is played. I like how people have been finding out who he was during the first season. One thing I notice about these is that a lot more people find out than they do in the comics, at least quicker, because in the comics, like, barely anybody will find out about them, but in the series, I guess because it's more realistic. Come on, I mean, can you really go on and no one in your life find out who you are? So I like how Felicity is a great character. At first, I kind of thought she was Black Canary based on her looks. She looks like someone who would play Black Canary. I mean, she was a blonde, even though she dyes it. She was. Well, Black Canary wasn't known for genius, but still, it's a series. They could have changed up her story a bit. Of course, she's not Black Canary. I think I know who Black Canary is, but I'm not going to say it, just in case any of y'all haven't watched season 2 yet either. But I do like the detective and the whole vigilante thing, how he calls him. Though it's kind of once again a copy of Batman with Jim Gordon. Except this detective doesn't really approve of Batman. I mean of Green Arrow, when Jim Gordon approves of Batman. But I also like how the arrows are themselves, how good the acting is, just some of the little cons I have with the series, some of the nitpicks. One, they kind of give Arrow what I call Batman's leftovers. What I mean by that is that, well, Slade Wilson, for one, he's not even an enemy of, he is an enemy of Batman, but he actually started off on Teen Titans. So I guess you could say he's more of an enemy of Robin. Dick Grayson's Robin, by the way. And so he's not a Green Arrow enemy, even though they do have a rivalry down the comic line. He didn't start off by Green Arrow. See, but what I mean by Green Arrow enemies are enemies who started off in Green Arrow comics, and Slade started off in Teen Titans. They also have Deadshot, which, as far as I know, started off in Batman comics. I don't know that for sure, but I think he's more of a Batman enemy than Green Arrow enemy. And then they had Firefly, who once again is more of a Batman. At least I know him as more of a Batman enemy than a Green Arrow enemy. And then I started to think about it. I'm like, Green Arrow doesn't really have much enemies that started off in his story. Merlin is probably the only one that I know of. Then again, I didn't really read or watch Green Arrow by himself. If I saw Green Arrow, he was usually in Justice League, not in by himself. But like I said, I also don't like how they changed the whole, because he kills people for who are like sometimes defenseless, because he's like, I'm going to kill them because they're on the list. So he kills them because they failed the city, as he says. And I didn't like that particularly because Green Arrow is like Batman in that he has a strong thing against killing people. In fact, in one episode of Justice League, another hero was kind of getting close to killing people, so he pretended to be dead. He hit himself with like some type of thing that made him go in stasis for a bit, just to show the hero was Wildcat, by the way, who I really hope they have in Green Arrow. If they do, nobody tell me because I haven't watched season 2 yet. But he showed him how it was to kill somebody. So he really had convictions against killing people in the comics. Now I realize once again in the series they try to make it like, you know, a little darker, but still he had convictions against killing people. In fact, when Batman brought him on to Justice League and vouched for him, at least in the cartoon, Batman was like, you need to keep them honest, as in you need to keep them controlled and stuff, you know? And this Arrow wouldn't be that type of guy. Now, I know this is supposed to be Origins, and what I do like is at the end of his first season, it shows him changing, because he doesn't kill Black Arrow or Dark Archer, whatever you like to call him, or Merlin. He doesn't kill him. So I do like how it shows that he's kind of changing, because Merlin showed him, he's like, you don't know why you're fighting. Merlin taught him a valuable lesson. He's like, you have to know why you're fighting and what you're fighting for. And Arrow didn't know. Arrow was just taking people off the list. The first season, Arrow was more finding himself, and at the end, he's like, I know what I'm fighting for, and that was good. I also liked how they introduced Roy Harper, and he's not his sidekick yet. They didn't just introduce him and then be like, oh, it's his sidekick. They introduced him. They give Roy Harper a little bit of a backstory, well, actually a big bit of a backstory, and and they also show how the name Speedy came about, because Roy, in the comics, Thea Queen, yeah, her name, only appeared in 5 comics, but they give her a big part in the show, which I like. So she is Roy's girlfriend in this one. I like that as well, and I like how Roy is finding himself, like he's like finding himself be the hero. He's trying to be the hero instead of the gangbanger like he was at the beginning, or whatever you call him, the Perth thief. And I mean, now they do have him wearing red hoods all the time, but come on, they had to give like to a hint that he's going to be Red Arrow or Arsenal or Speedy, whatever you call him. So I also like how they call Thea Speedy, so they could kind of show how the nickname came from. But there is one thing about the whole Arrow and the red thing. Now, Arrow does a good job of showing people who didn't read the comics. They do a good job of kind of like, if you didn't read the comics and didn't know who any of these people are, it's still a good show. Based on me, I don't know, because I didn't read I watched I know Arrow's, at least Arrow in the Justice League show. I don't know about everything, but I do know Arrow. I know Speedy mostly from Teen Titans, but still, like I said, they do a pretty good job of keeping it interesting even if you don't read the comics. But if you do read the comics, this show really throws back to the old cartoons, the comics. It really shows like how they introduce people who are from them and how they act. It's pretty cool. I do like it, because Merlin in the comics, he beat Green Arrow first, and then he was like, I'm the better archer, kind of. And then he becomes a League of Assassins, and when he's trying to assassin Batman, actually, Arrow stops him and beats him, and then he's like, okay, I guess you're the better archer. So I like how they had Arrow lose to him twice, and then he beat him the third time. So it's really good. And I like how they did that, kind of a throwback to the comics. They do have these throwback moments in the show. So all in all, the show is pretty good. I'm looking forward to watching season 2. May have a little review on that. I actually want to nitpick at each main character of Arrow. I think I'll start with Thea. Anyway, so my review of Arrow, overall, the show was about an 8.0. The first season. And it's just because, and it does good at giving comic readers what they want. They give them the villain, they give them the backstories, they give them little hints to certain villains. Like there was actually a little hint, which I will say, because I haven't watched season 2, that Black Canary is Dinah Laurel Lance. So I love how they called her Laurel in the show. So even though her first name's supposed to be Dinah, and I love how they called her Laurel to throw people off because most people would remember that Black Canary's middle name was Laurel. So we know, I guess that Laurel or Dinah will be Black Canary. And I love how they gave that little hint in that one episode where they were like, I wonder why my parents let her keep that canary. It was so loud. Now, I haven't watched season 2 yet, so I don't know whether they'll give her the bird call or whether she just be a really good fighting girl. But anyway, that's my review for Arrow season 1. Looking forward to watching season 2, and maybe I'll have a review up for that. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. God bless.